We often think the secret to a healthy relationship lies in finding the right person. But the truth is, it lies in becoming the right person. And that starts with mastering one thing: emotional discipline grounded in empathy. Let me ask you this. Why are you in the relationship you're in? Why are you searching for one? Most people don't have a clear answer. They confuse the rush of chemistry for connection. They think the butterflies are a sign of something real. But the real magic in a relationship begins after the butterflies leave. It's when things get quiet, when the mess shows up. That's when love is either forged or forgotten. We often enter relationships drawn by an intense emotional pull. The excitement, the passion, the chemistry. It feels electric, it feels alive. And in that whirlwind, we assume this feeling is the foundation of something lasting. But what many fail to recognize is that passion is not the foundation. It's the spark. And like all sparks, it burns bright, but briefly. What sustains a relationship over the months and years is not the fire of passion, but the fuel of purpose. Without it, relationships flicker and fade when things get hard, when the novelty wears off, or when reality begins to surface. Understanding the why behind your relationship is more than just asking, why do I love them? It's digging deeper. Why do we choose this connection over all others? What do we hope to give, not just what we hope to receive? What kind of impact do we want this relationship to have on who we are becoming? Too often, people enter relationships with unconscious expectations, to be validated, to be saved, to never feel lonely again. But when we don't consciously define the purpose of our relationship, we unknowingly make it about fulfilling our insecurities rather than creating a meaningful partnership. Purpose isn't romantic in the traditional sense. It's not the stuff of fairy tales or Instagram captions. Purpose shows up in the quiet, unglamorous moments when you decide to stay curious instead of defensive during a disagreement. When you sit with your partner's pain, not to fix it, but to understand it. When you show up even when you're tired, even when you're busy, even when there's nothing in it for you that day. These are not acts driven by passion. These are acts driven by purpose. A commitment to building something meaningful, something bigger than convenience, comfort, or ego. And this purpose must be mutual. When both people in a relationship understand why they're together. Beyond attraction, beyond compatibility. They begin to align their actions with a shared vision. Maybe the purpose is to build a life rooted in growth and service. Maybe it's to create a family, or to support each other's healing, or to be a mirror that reflects truth with love. Whatever that purpose is, it becomes the compass when the feelings fluctuate, because feelings always do. In a purpose-driven relationship, disagreements don't signal doom, they become checkpoints. Tough seasons don't feel like failures, they feel like tests of commitment. Because when you're aligned in your why, you don't look for the exit every time things get hard. You look for each other. You're reminded that love isn't just about how you feel today, but about what you're committed to becoming together over time. On the other hand, when passion is the only thing holding two people together, the relationship becomes a roller coaster. High highs, low lows, but no real direction. Passion is reactive. Purpose is intentional. Passion ignites. Purpose endures. So if you want a healthy relationship, start by asking yourself and your partner not just what you love about each other, but why you're choosing this relationship. Why do you show up when it's hard? Why are you committed to this journey? Why does it matter? Find the answers, and you'll find the roots that keep your love grounded when the storms inevitably come. Because in the end, passion is what pulls us in, but purpose is what holds us together. We often fall for the fireworks. The grand gestures, the surprise trips, the passionate declarations that feel like they belong in a movie. It's easy to mistake intensity for love. It's loud. It's exciting. It grabs our attention. But while intensity may impress us in the beginning, it's consistency that builds trust over time. Intensity starts the relationship, but consistency sustains it. And if you truly want to experience love that's healthy, reliable, and deep, you need to stop chasing emotional highs and start paying attention to emotional stability. Trust doesn't form when someone shows up once in an extraordinary way. It forms when they show up over and over again in the small, ordinary moments. It's built in the good morning texts, in remembering the little things you said last week, in listening without interrupting, in being where they said they'd be. It's built when someone follows through not just on promises that are easy, but on the ones that are hard, inconvenient, or uncomfortable. Anyone can be intense once. Very few can be consistent always. That's what makes it rare. And that's what makes it valuable. We tend to romanticize the wrong things. The candlelit dinners are nice. The passionate apologies after a fight might even feel dramatic and deep. But if someone keeps letting you down and apologizing with big gestures, what you have is a cycle, not stability. True love doesn't need to shout. It's quiet. It's dependable. It shows up on time, listens when you speak, and supports you without being asked. That kind of consistency might not make your heart race, but it will give your heart peace. And that's far more powerful. Consistency is about emotional safety. It tells your nervous system, you're okay here. This is predictable. This is stable. And emotional safety is the foundation of any healthy relationship. Without it, you're constantly guessing, wondering how the other person feels, wondering if they'll change again tomorrow, wondering if you can trust their words this time. But when someone is consistent, you don't have to wonder. You already know. And when you already know, you can finally relax into the relationship instead of performing, chasing, or second guessing. Consistency also reveals character. It shows who someone is when no one is watching, when the emotions aren't high, when there's nothing to gain. Intensity might be genuine in the moment, but it's usually fueled by emotion. Consistency, on the other hand, is fueled by values. It's a choice made day after day, even when the spark isn't as strong, even when things are tough, even when life gets busy. That's where real love lies. Not in the height of emotion, but in the depth of commitment. If you want to know if someone truly loves you, don't ask how big they love. Ask how often. Do they show up on your worst days? Are they kind when they're tired? Do their actions match their words over time? If the answer is yes, you're not just being loved, you're being built with. Because real relationships are built, not performed. And building requires effort, rhythm, and reliability. The truth is, consistency is quiet, and that's why so many people overlook it. But if you've ever been hurt by someone who is inconsistent, you'll know how much peace there is in someone who simply keeps their word. You'll know how deeply healing it is to be with someone who does what they say, loves without the chaos, and builds trust without theatrics. That is the kind of love worth choosing. In the end, intense moments may dazzle us, but it's the steady, consistent ones that keep us safe, help us grow, and teach us what real love actually feels like. So many relationships break down not because love disappears, but because people stop seeing each other as individuals and start seeing each other as roles. You're my boyfriend. You're my wife. You're supposed to make me feel good. Expectations form around these labels, and with them come assumptions, obligations, and often disappointment. But here's the truth: you're not in a relationship with a role, you're in a relationship with a human. And that simple truth changes everything. When we treat someone like a role, we subconsciously expect them to play a part in a script we've already written. We assume they should behave a certain way, speak a certain way, fulfill certain emotional needs, and never deviate from the image we hold of them. And when they don't, we feel let down. Not because they've done something wrong, but because they've failed to meet the fantasy we silently projected onto them. That's not love. That's control dressed up as connection. Love, real love, begins when we let go of who we think someone should be and start accepting who they actually are, with their flaws, contradictions, moods, growth, fears, and dreams. Humans are complex. They're not always strong. They're not always happy. They change. They evolve. And if we're not open to that evolution, we end up loving who they used to be or who we wish they were, instead of loving who they are right now. This mindset shift from role to real is essential for a healthy relationship. It requires curiosity. It requires humility. And it requires presence. It means asking questions instead of making assumptions. It means noticing changes instead of resisting them. It means saying, "Help me understand you," instead of saying, "Why aren't you the person I need you to be?" You don't get to choose only the parts of someone that make you comfortable. You don't get to love the highlight reel and ignore the hard days. Humans are not emotional vending machines. They're not here to meet your every expectation or act according to your timeline. They're here to live, grow, and discover just like you. And the more you treat your partner like a human being, not a job description, the safer they'll feel to be authentic with you. And that authenticity is where true intimacy begins. So many people lose connection because they stop seeing their partner clearly. They see the parent of their child, the provider, the caretaker, the partner, who's to be more fun, and they miss the person behind all that. They miss the insecurities they've been hiding. They miss the pressure they're quietly carrying. They miss the dreams they're afraid to speak. And when we stop seeing each other fully, we start drifting apart. Not because we stopped loving, but because we stopped or noticing. Being in a relationship with a human means embracing discomfort. It means holding space for the parts of your partner that you don't understand yet. It means being willing to learn them every time they grow. Because loving someone isn't about locking them into who they were when you met. It's about choosing them again and again, even as they change. At the heart of it, love is not about finding the perfect person to play a role in your life. It's about building a life with someone who is imperfect, evolving, and fully human. And when we stop trying to fit people into our mold and instead meet them where they are, that's when the relationship becomes something real, not performative, not scripted, but deeply alive. So let go of the title, let go of the fantasy, and start showing up for the human right in front of you. Because that's who you're actually in a relationship with, and that's who deserves to be seen, heard, and loved fully. Most people believe they're good listeners, but what they're really doing is waiting for their turn to speak. They hear words, but they don't absorb the message. They respond quickly, but they don't reflect deeply. And in relationships, this creates distance. Over time, feeling unheard becomes feeling unseen. And that's when connection begins to break. To build and sustain a truly healthy relationship, you have to master the art of listening, not just hearing, because hearing is passive. Listening is intentional. Hearing catches sound. Listening catches meaning. Listening is one of the most underrated forms of love. When someone feels deeply heard, they feel safe. They feel valued. They feel like they matter. And when someone feels like they matter, they let their guard down. They show more of who they are. That's how trust forms, not through agreement, but through understanding. Listening doesn't mean you have to agree with everything. It means you're willing to step into their perspective, even when it's different from yours. It means being present enough to recognize that what they're saying isn't just information, it's emotion. We live in a culture of distraction, and our relationships suffer for it. Too often, we listen while scrolling, while thinking about our response, while defending ourselves in our heads. But people can feel when your attention is divided. They can sense when you're not really with them. And over time, that creates emotional distance. It tells them, your voice doesn't matter here. True listening requires full presence. Eyes, ears, body language, and heart. It's about giving someone the dignity of your attention. Even when what they're saying is hard to hear, one of the reasons listening is so powerful is because it dissolves defensiveness. Most conflicts escalate because people feel misunderstood. When you truly listen, not to fix, not to debate, but to understand, you remove the need for the other person to fight to be heard. You create space, and in that space, emotions soften. Walls come down. Solutions become possible. But when you interrupt, dismiss, or minimize what someone is expressing, you shut the door to connection. You might win the argument, but you lose the relationship. Listening also requires patience. Sometimes people don't express what they're really feeling right away. They might circle around it. They might test the waters to see if it's safe. A good listener doesn't rush them. A good listener knows that silence is part of communication too. It gives people time to find their words. And sometimes just holding that space, with no pressure, no judgment, allows the truth to finally come out. It's important to remember that listening isn't about fixing. So many people, especially in close relationships, hear someone's pain and immediately jump to problem solving. But often, people don't want solutions. They want connection. They want someone to say, that makes sense. Or, that sounds really hard. They want to feel like they're not alone in what they're experiencing. That simple validation, that moment of being seen, can heal more than any advice ever could. The art of listening is about humility. It's about realizing that you don't know everything, that your partner's experience is real, even if it doesn't match your own. It's about letting go of the need to be right and embracing the desire to be close. Because the goal of listening isn't to win, it's to understand. And in understanding, we make people feel safe. In safety, people open up. And when people open up, relationships deepen. So if you want a relationship that lasts, practice listening. Not with the intent to reply, but with the intent to truly understand. Because at the core of every healthy relationship is one simple truth. Being deeply heard is one of the most powerful forms of love. In most relationships, conflict is inevitable. Two people with different experiences, emotions, and beliefs will eventually see things differently, want different things, or misunderstand each other. But it's not conflict itself that destroys connection. It's how we handle it. Far too often, arguments turn into battles. We start keeping score. We raise our voices. We listen only to defend, and we speak only to prove a point. In those moments, the goal quietly shifts from connection to victory. And when winning becomes more important than understanding, love begins to erode. We've been conditioned in many ways to win. Win debates, win fights, win arguments. But relationships aren't competitions. There are no gold medals for being the loudest or the most logical or the most stubborn. Because even if you win the argument, what do you really win? A silent partner, a resentful silence, a temporary upper hand. You don't win anything meaningful when your partner feels small, misunderstood, or emotionally alone. Understanding, not winning, should always be the goal. Because understanding is what keeps two people connected even when they don't agree. It's what turns a heated moment into an opportunity for growth. It's what says, I care more about knowing you than defeating you. And that kind of energy shifts everything. It turns conflict into intimacy. It turns tension into trust. To truly understand someone, you have to pause your ego. You have to quiet the part of you that wants to be right, that wants to be heard first, that wants to defend itself. Understanding starts with listening, not just to the words being said, but to the feelings underneath. It means recognizing that behind anger is often pain. Behind silence is often fear. Behind frustration is often a need that hasn't been named yet. When your goal is understanding, you get curious. You ask questions. You slow down. You try to see the world through your partner's eyes, not just your own. This doesn't mean you abandon your own voice or opinions. It doesn't mean you become passive. Understanding is not about surrender. It's about balance. It's about holding your truth while also making space for theirs. It's about realizing that two people can see the same situation very differently, and both perspectives can still be valid. When you give your partner the dignity of being heard, really heard, you make it easier for them to do the same for you. But when you fight to win, when your words become weapons, when you interrupt, when you twist what was said just to gain ground, what you're really doing is damaging the safety of the relationship. Because no one feels safe with someone who constantly needs to win. No one opens up to someone who uses vulnerability against them. Emotional safety is built on mutual respect, and that respect disappears the moment winning takes over. Healthy relationships are not about being right all the time. They're about being real, being kind, and being willing to grow together. They're about choosing peace over power. And they're about remembering, especially in hard moments, that the person in front of you is not your enemy. They are someone you care about. Someone who, just like you, wants to feel seen, heard, and valued. So the next time you find yourself in an argument, ask yourself one simple question. Do I want to win this moment, or do I want to protect this connection? Because you can't do both. And when you choose understanding over victory, you're not just keeping the relationship alive, you're allowing it to deepen, evolve, and become something stronger than it was before. Everyone wants to feel safe in a relationship, safe to be honest, to be vulnerable, to be imperfect. But emotional safety isn't something that just shows up because we say we want it. It's not something you can demand with words and expect to magically appear. It's something that must be built piece by piece through actions that say, you can trust me. I won't use your truth against you. I'll hold space for your pain. I'll meet your honesty with care. A safe space is not declared. It is created over time through consistency, empathy, and respect. In many relationships, people say they want honesty, but they don't realize the responsibility that comes with that request. Honesty is fragile. It comes slowly. It waits to see if it will be judged, dismissed, or punished. People won't open up just because you tell them to. They open up when they feel that it's safe to do so, and that feeling can't be faked. It comes from your energy, your reactions, and your ability to listen without turning their vulnerability into a weapon. You build a safe space when you respond to discomfort with curiosity instead of control. When someone tells you something hard, something that stings or surprises you, and your instinct is to listen instead of lash out, that's when they learn they can trust you. That trust doesn't come from getting everything right. It comes from being steady even when emotions are high, from not shutting down or walking away when things get real, from holding your partner's rawness without trying to rush past it or fix it immediately. Safe spaces are built when people feel accepted, not just loved. Love that comes with conditions. I love you, but only when you're happy. Or, I love you, but don't make me uncomfortable, is not safe. It teaches people to hide, to edit themselves, to shrink. But real love, the kind that creates a safe space, says, even when you're messy, even when you're struggling, even when I don't fully understand you, I'm still here. I still care. I still respect you. That doesn't mean tolerating abuse or disrespect. A safe space is mutual. It's a shared agreement to treat each other with care, even when we're in conflict. It means learning how to disagree without degrading, how to express pain without blaming, how to be honest without being cruel. These are skills that don't come naturally for everyone, especially if you grew up in environments where emotional safety wasn't modeled. But they can be learned. They must be learned if we want our relationships to be more than surface level. You don't build a safe space by demanding that your partner open up. You build it by earning their openness through the way you show up day after day, through your reactions, your tone, your patience. You build it by showing that they can cry without being called weak, share doubts without being dismissed, and be angry without being abandoned. Every time you make someone feel accepted in their most vulnerable state, you lay another brick in the foundation of emotional safety. And that foundation is what everything else rests on. Without safety, love becomes a performance. Communication becomes a guessing game. Conflict becomes warfare instead of growth. But with safety, love becomes a place to rest, to breathe, to grow together without fear. That's what people crave at their core. Not perfection, not constant agreement, but the freedom to be real without losing the relationship. So if you want honesty, build the safety that invites it. If you want intimacy, create the space where vulnerability feels welcome. That's how trust grows. That's how love deepens. That's how safe spaces are built, not through demand, but through daily, intentional care.